I'm Kira. I run Pleasure Crochet over on Instagram and TikTok, which is my little like crochet and knitwear brand, I guess. I guess you could call it that. And basically I've had a lot of people ask how I make my little jumpers. Not this one. I didn't make this one. But yeah, so I thought I'd make a little video showing you how. So you can do this on your Centro 48 pin, yeah, and your Addy 46. If you have a smaller machine, it probably won't work unless you do more panels, and I'll get to that when we make it. So this is the jumper here that we're going to be making today. It's got this really lovely like variegated stripe pattern, which I just love. I think it's so pretty, and the sleeves look really long because they stretch out, so like I've not got like slender arms. But yeah, and it's completely customizable, so it can be as big or as small as you kind of need it to be. Obviously if it's a bit bigger than a UK 8, the front and back are going to look a wee bit different, and it's not going to be this one solid piece, it's going to be two. That's how you can make it a bit bigger for my plus size and like just bigger friends. But yeah, this yarn is from Sada yarns. It's the jewel spun, yeah, it's the jewel spun in Setting Sun, which is one of my favorite yarns right now, and they really kindly sent me some, which is so exciting. But yeah, so we're gonna be doing this exact thing. It's gonna look a wee bit different. Everyone's gonna look a wee bit different, just because that's how variegated yarn works. But yeah, this is the other side. This is the side I usually wear as the front. And again, you can kind of pick and choose which side you want to be the front, because there aren't really any rules. I just do what I want here. But yeah, we'll go to my Centro in my office and we'll get started. This is my machine. I've got the Centro 48, sorry. And I also installed this little digital counter because mine broke, my row counter. And this also then means I can count for my panels. If you don't have that, do not worry. Get an app on your phone that is like a tally counter, or like just like a counter app, like a tap counter. And at the end of every row, just like tap, and that way you can keep track. I also on my machine have this, like, it's a silicone earplug basically, but what it does is the yarn catches through it and it gets rid of any static, which might cause you to get like tucked stitches or stuff like that. I don't know, I read it on some forum and was like, I am willing to try that. Yeah, this is the yarn I'm going to be using. This is again the Sada jewel spun in Setting Sun. Where is it? Yeah, Setting Sun. This is so gorgeous. My first one that I made, my first jumper with, my boyfriend's parents gave to me like years ago, and I never used it. And then I did with this, and it is my favourite. It's so nice. So thank you to Sada for sending me like a couple of balls of this. That was so kind. But yeah, so this is an Aran wool. You do not want to go any chunkier, basically. This is probably the thickest your machine will be able to handle, just because of the size of the pins and like the yarn feeder. It won't work if you use anything chunkier. Anything thinner should be fine. I probably wouldn't use, actually I don't know, I haven't tried using mohair on this. I've read a few things that it's not great, but I don't know, you never know until you try. You're also gonna need like yarn darning needle. You usually get a big long pink one with this machine. I have lost mine, so I'm gonna be using this, and this is just to cast off at the end and to weave any of your ends in. And you're also gonna need a pair of scissors, which I'm gonna go grab now. Now we're all set up. I've got blue tack underneath all my like suction cups, just because they don't stick to this desk, and if you don't, it's just gonna like shiggle, and this stops it. Also, sorry if like the camera is jiggling. I've got a weird setup to try and film this. But yeah, this is my counter. So I'm gonna make sure I'm looking at this and making sure it's working. That's what this magnet here is for. So yeah, let's go ahead and cast on. Okay, so first things first, there's a little button or switch here on the center that has a T and a P. So basically you want to switch that to panel mode, and that means you're not going to be able to go past this point basically, and that just makes sure you're not going to ruin your panel basically by going over too many stitches if you're not paying attention. Right, so I'm going to pop my camera over here and let's cast on. So basically you want to go to your first peg, which is the one after this white peg, and you want to thread your yarn under it and leave a long tail in the middle. And then you want to just weave back and forth every peg, and this is how you cast on. So let's do that. Is I'm not gonna weave into the white one, and I'm just gonna pop my yarn in the feeder, or try to. There we go, and I'm gonna pop it in this middle catcher there. But yeah, you can see I've gone back and forth, and then with this white hook you want to crank until your machine doesn't let you crank anymore, and that just means your yarn is going to get under this bump, which is the most important thing for having nice, neat, pretty panels. Basically, you always want to make sure at the end of every single row your yarn is getting pulled under this bump here, because that means this stitch is properly cast on. Okay, I'm gonna reset my little counter and go back the way we came. Move my camera a little bit. There we go. So you can see the yarn is going through this, which is going to get rid of any static. And when you're at the end of every row, when you're going back, you just want to add a wee bit of tension just to make sure that it's nice and pretty. But yeah, go slowly on your first round, just because it's gonna be a bit janky and a bit tight, just because that's you casting on basically. But yeah, just go slowly, make sure every stitch is getting cast on, and you should be good. Yeah, just go slowly until your machine stops you again at this white peg. So yeah, you can see the machine is not gonna stitch on 1, 2, 3. That's just the way it works in panel mode. So you're always gonna have less than you think you do, basically. But yeah, so that, I don't class those two as my first row. I usually class this next ones as my proper rows, just because I know that like I'm properly cast on and can start counting. So what you are literally going to do is just go back and forth until you hit 100 rows. That's how I make my jumpers. That makes them a wee bit cropped on me, who is a size 8. If you want it a bit longer, do more rows. I know 130 is pretty good for a full length, I think. But again, just experiment, try whatever you want. It's literally like just trial and error. You can always unravel a project if you don't like the length of it. It's really not a problem. So yeah, I will see you when I have my 50th row and we can see what that looks like together. Okay, so here we are at the end of my 14th row, and I just remembered something. So basically when you get to, let's do it together. So I'm gonna just carry on stitching, make sure I'm pulling my yarn tight as it goes through here and then letting it go. This thing is also gonna regulate your tension, which is really, really handy. So it's gonna make it a wee bit tighter, so take that into like account. I haven't made a jumper using this yet, so this is gonna be a fun little experiment for me. But yeah, you're just gonna keep going till the end of your round, and you might notice when you get here that this stitch is not all the way down. you need to push that down so it's actually at the bottom before you stitch it. Otherwise you're going to get tucked stitches, which do not look very nice. And you probably are going to get them. I get them all the time. They're in almost every single one of my jumpers. But if you can stop it, when you see it, definitely do that. It can happen in the middle as well, so just kind of keep an eye and make sure you're pushing all your like stitches down your pegs, just to make sure that every single stitch is getting properly counted. So this is my 15th row. We will come back when I'm at my 50th. Okay, here we are with our 50 rows. You can see how gorgeous this color changing yarn is. We're getting into the pinks now, which is my favorite part, to be honest. But yeah, so this is what 50 rows looks like. It didn't take me very long, maybe 20 minutes. So I'm gonna do another 50 and we'll see how to cast off. But yeah, this thing actually is great. I'm getting no tension issues, no tuck stitches. So what a great little hack. But yeah, just make sure that you're making sure to tuck every single one of these down and that your yarn is going under the bumps every time, because that's what's gonna knit your stitches essentially. But yeah, I'll see you when we need to cast off. But it's looking really good so far. Okay, so I just hit my 100th row. This is what we're looking like. It's already so different to my other one, which I'm absolutely loving. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with 100 probably. I like this length on me, and I'm sure a lot of other people do as well. But yeah, so I'm gonna show you how we're gonna cast off these stitches. So first things first, you want to cut yourself a really long tail. So from your yarn ball that's on the floor, just gather up a super long tail. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, but you don't want it to be short, because this is what you're going to be using to secure all those stitches. So yeah, here we go. So I'm gonna thread my yarn, sorry about my Coke in the corner there. So I'm gonna thread my little yarn needle with that yarn, just like that, and then take it out of the yarn feeder and put all that in the middle. And then we're gonna slowly crank our machine, and this is gonna, obviously there's no yarn in the feeder, so it's gonna just sit, and then you can pick it up with your needle. So you can see there the yarn is going through all those top stitches. Okie doke, so I've just taken my panel completely off the machine, and you can see it here. So this is 100 rows. It's so pretty. I'm loving this purple up here. I think that's really nice. But yeah, as you can see, it's stretched out a lot longer. You need to kind of stretch it and pull it for the stitches to properly expand, and it is going to roll. That's just something that happens with this kind of knit stitch. You can probably iron it or block it. I don't mind it. I think it's pretty cute, especially on sleeves. I think it's quite nice. So I just leave it, and then obviously when you stitch these together to make your front and back, the sides won't curl anymore. So yeah, I'm gonna make one more of these for my front and my back. If you need yours to be bigger than a size UK 8, however, I suggest making 4 of these and then you've got 2 in the front and 2 in the back, like side by side, and then there will be a seam down the middle. And I think that'll be super cute, especially with like a variegated yarn like this, because it'll be so different. But yeah, that's how I would make it a wee bit bigger. It's definitely possible. I've said this in my TikTok comments before, but I tend to just make these to fit me because it's my hobby, obviously, and there's not really any point me making like a size 16 jumper when I can't wear it, basically. So yeah, it's super easy to do. I will probably do a tutorial on that soon, but again, it's super easy. You would just have to make 4 panels in the front and then do the sleeves however way fits you. But yeah, so I'm gonna go make 1 more of these and then we'll do the sleeves together. Okay, the sun has finally decided to show its face so you can see the colors properly. These are my 2 panels, so my front and my back. I don't know which order I'm having. I'm really loving this one though. I think that's so nice. I love this purple here, so I think I'll probably have this as my front, maybe? I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, so these are just 100 rows of every single pin. They're quite thick, they're not see-through really, which is nice. I would still wear a top under these just to make sure. But yeah, so this is my front and my back. Again, if you wanted it to be bigger, I would do 2 more, and then you would seam these together and that would be the front, and then you'd seam another 2 and that would be the back, and that's how you can make it a bit more like oversized or just bigger in general. But yeah, another thing I forgot to mention is that I recommend pulling your yarn from the center instead of the outside, because that way it just kind of regulates your tension a wee bit better, and you're not having to like pull off a bunch of like yarn that's then gonna get like tangled and stuff. But yeah, these are my panels so far. I need to do the sleeves and then we'll sew them up, and that's it, and then we'll be done. Okie doke, we're gonna cast on for our sleeves. Now the number you do is really up to personal preference. I like to do 35 stitches, so to peg number 35. You can do more, you can do less. It's genuinely just personal preference. I've seen people do like a tube, and that's really good for like oversized jumpers if you just do one big tube. But I'm gonna do 35. That gives me the look that I want personally. So let's go to number 1. Let's check, yeah. So let's put our yarn behind number 1 and just go until peg 35. So that's 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, so this is number 35. So I'm going to pop my yarn into the feeder. And then again, the most important part is that the yarn goes underneath this bump here. That's the most important thing. Like that. So under the bump. That is to the left of your last stitch. That is the most important part for both your panels and like your front and your sleeves. So just make sure you're doing that, and then we just keep going. I like to do like 120 rows, see how long that is, and if I want to do more, I'll maybe do a bit more, maybe 130. Okay, so I just wanted to show you this bit for your sleeves. So obviously I've only cast on up to this peg, so all these are free. And I just need to make like every time you go around, you need to make sure you're stopping on the right peg. So let's start. So again, I'm pulling my yarn tight down here to make sure this stitch is nice and tight, and then we just slowly go around. My counter is going to count my row for me, and we are stopping here. So just push that one down, and then make sure that this yarn is going underneath that bump, like that. And then that's that last stitch ready basically, and you don't want to go any further, otherwise you're gonna have a weird shape. So you just have to make sure. It's easy once you get used to it, but you just have to be sure. And then you can go back the other way, and like I'm gonna try and show you, but as you can see, like this yarn going under this bump is the most important part, because then it catches, and then it means that this peg can pick up the yarn basically. So let's just keep going till the end of my row, and I'm just holding my yarn so my tension is nice. Push this yarn down so it doesn't get tucked, and then finish my row. So I've got 4 rows, and that's what that looks like. But yeah, I'm gonna go until I probably hit 130, I think is gonna be my magic number for the sleeves. Okay, so this is my first sleeve done. I'm really loving that this ball obviously has a super purple like section, which is really nice, and the pinks are lovely too. So yeah, this is one sleeve, so this is 130 rows, and this hits me around here on my hands, which is what I like personally. But yeah, I'm gonna make one more of these, and then all we have to do is seam them together. But yeah, so just need to make one more, and then we are done. So now we have our 4 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, if you're making this a bit bigger, you should have 6 or more pieces. More of the front panels. You should be good on the sleeves. So again, this is 130 rows of 35 stitches, and this is 48 stitches and 100 rows. So that's what they look like, all flat, and now all we have to do is stitch them together. Yeah, I just wanted to show you how much yarn I have left. This is how much yarn I have left from the big ball I showed you in the beginning, which is actually a not bad amount. I'll be using this to sew it up. But yeah, obviously if you're making more panels, you're gonna need more yarn. Again, it's just trial and error. Buy more than you think you need, if that's possible. And yeah, I'm sure you could do this with mismatched yarn, and that would be super cute as well. But yeah, let's go and sew these up. So to start sewing and putting your pieces together, you're going to need a few bits. So you're going to need whatever scrap yarn you've got left over from making your jumper, and if you don't have any, try and use like a similar colour, just so it, like, this is what we're going to be using to sew up, so you don't really want it to be showing. You're going to need crochet hook, doesn't really matter what size, just one that works with your yarn. This is a 3.5mm, I would also use a 4, and you're going to need some sewing pins. So yeah, that's everything you're going to need, and obviously your 4 or 6 panels. Okay, so first of all, with your 2 or 4 front and back panels, I'm just going to say 2 because that's what I'm using, but the same things apply if you're doing more than one panel for the front and back. So you're going to decide which way you want them to sit, so which part you want to be at the top and which part you want to be at the bottom. And you don't have to decide which one's going to be your front and back just yet. You can do that once it's all finished. But basically what you're going to do is you're going to lie them on top of each other, right sides together, so like this. And then I want this side to be the top, so I'm going to flip it so it's nearest to me. So this is going to be the top of my jumper where my shoulders are, and what we need to do is seam them together just so we have a neck hole. So what you're going to do first is you're going to take your pins. I usually just grab a few and bring them out. Longer ones are better, I find. I've got like a mixed box of like long ones and short ones, and the long ones are better. So what you're going to do first is take one of your sides, make sure everything's nice and stretched, and then line the corners up, and then pinch them together. This is a little bit fiddly because they like to curl, and then just pop your pin in like that, and then do the same on the other side. Make sure these ends are out of the way, otherwise they'll be showing on the outside of your jumper. Just continue. I would measure actually like how long your shoulders are and then how long you want your neck hole to be, because obviously it needs to be big enough for your head to go through. I don't bother measuring. I can kind of see how long I need it to be, and it's usually for me about 4 pins ish, but it completely depends on what size jumper you're making. So yeah, just pin it together. So that's 3 pins, and that's how big the opening is, which looks about right to me, so that's fine. I'm gonna pop the rest of these pins away. Okay, for this next bit, you're gonna need your yarn and your crochet hook. So we're basically just gonna slip stitch along both edges. So what you're gonna do is, first of all, get some of your yarn out and ready, and then you're again gonna find the corner and just pop your crochet hook into that corner. Yeah, just like that through both layers, and then take your yarn, and then I like to just secure it a bit like that. Okay, and then we're just gonna go through and slip stitch. And you really, this is important, you need to make sure these bumps here are staying on the inside of your piece, because otherwise they're going to show up and look bumpy and not great. And if you like that, great, but I don't for me. But yeah, you can just see I'm just slip stitching along, making sure I'm pulling up those loops so I'm not going over them, taking out my pins as I go. This is the most tedious part of making these jumpers, I find, is the sewing them together. The thing I like about these jumpers is that like it doesn't have to be super precise, I don't think. I think it's really sweet when they look quite like homemade, and maybe other people don't like that, but I do. Like every single one of these jumpers for me has a flaw, and I think that's nice because like they're not being made by like a machine, like they're being made by like me in my living room, so they're not going to be perfect, and that's what I love about them, because they still look so nice and they've got like a really lovely like vibe, I guess. That's quite fun. But yeah, just making sure I'm pulling these loops towards me as I crochet my slip stitch, just so they don't get caught on the outside. Yeah, I tend to go like usually about 2 of these little lines down, and then I'll put my hook in here, just because it makes sure it's really secure rather than just doing it on the first one, and it makes a nice seam. So yeah, I'm gonna go up till here, and I'll just pull that out a wee bit so I know where I'm stopping. Take my last pin out, pull these together, and then just crochet all the way down. Now you could line up each and every stitch if you really wanted to. I started doing that in the beginning and then realized how boring it was to do that, so I don't do that anymore. I just kind of go by eye, and it's worked out fine. So I'm just gonna keep going, and then I'll show you how we finish off. Go to about here. Okay, and then what I do is, instead of going back in, I'll just pull up another loop. I don't have any scissors, so yeah, pull up that loop. But yeah, found my scissors, so you pulled up a big loop, and then what you're gonna just do is cut it, pull your yarn out, and then pull that tight, and then we're gonna weave that in later along with these ones. So that's fine. So that's one side done, nice and secure. Make sure that's all stretched out so it's nice. And now we're gonna do the other side, which is much the same. Actually, it's exactly the same. So yeah, we're gonna do the same thing. So just make sure these aren't super curled. 1, 2, 3. So that's where that's gonna end, about here, which looks about right. So I'm literally just gonna pop my hook in, and then do the same thing. So pull through and then pull both of those strands through to begin, and then just go. You could also use a sewing, like a darning needle, to do this and like do a whip stitch. I tried that, didn't love the way that it looked, but I think if you had like say if you're doing an all black one and you used like white thread and did that, I think that would look really cool. But if you're just trying to like not show any of the seams, then I think this is the best method, because it just leaves a really clean line, which is nice. Make sure your ends don't get tangled up. Loops. This bit takes a bit of time and patience, which I don't always have. So I tend to make all my panels in one sitting and then do all my sewing in one sitting instead of like alternating, because then like once you're in like the like the groove of it, it's a lot easier than like chopping and changing all the time. But that's only because I make these quite a lot. But if you're just making one, then you'd probably not have a breakdown. I hope. Put some more yarn. And now when you get to the end, you just really want to make sure everything is lined up nicely. But yeah, this yarn is so lovely to work with. It makes the jumpers just so thick and cozy. And then we're at the end, pull up your loop. My goodness, can never pick these up. And then they're so fun. There we go. And then just pull that tight, and then yeah, This should be about even. Well, looks good to me. Great, onto the sleeves, which is the bit that takes forever. Okay, so now we're gonna attach our sleeves to our main body. So what you want to do is take your sleeve, you want them both to be right sides down, so when you pinch them together, it's right sides together, basically. But yeah, I like to stretch my sleeves out and then just kind of pin wherever they kind of go, and then I will measure and readjust where they end up, just so it's like even, basically. So here to around here. And then basically the gist of it is we're gonna seam up along here, and then that's gonna be our shoulder, and then we can seam all the way around the arms. Okay, so mine is around, if I stretch it, 17 inches, so I want it to be, the middle to be around, I don't know, oh god. Okay, so stretched out, mine is around 18 inches, so I want the middle to be at 9, which is pretty easy. So I'm just gonna measure along here. So, sorry, 8 and 16. So here is around my middle. Again, make sure all these edges are on the inside. And I'm just gonna get a pin. And put the middle one in. And then we can just go along either side and pop our pins in. Just like before. It's all super similar processes, you just have to do, you just kind of have to know where to do them. But yeah, you want to make sure these are down long enough that your arms are going to be comfortable in them and not like too tight. So yeah. So yeah, there we go. Just gonna make sure I measured this right again. Yeah, it kind of shrinks as you go, which is just one of those things that happens. But like it does stretch, so okay. I actually cut this like thread long enough connected to here that I'm probably just going to use this to crochet down just to save some of this yarn. So just the same thing, pop your hook in the corner and then as far down as you can go and pull up that loop. Just keep going. Again, try and make sure you're going as straight as possible, not wiggling too much because you'll see it. just carry on the whole way down. But yeah, just carry this on until you get to the end over here. Okay, so as you can see, we've got our slip stitches. So that's this side done, and we're literally just going to repeat it on that side. Okay, now we have both of our sleeves attached, just like this. So that's what it should look like with your shoulder seam and then your arms. So what we're going to do now, as you can see, this is the right side. We're going to just hold it by its seams, shake out, and then lay it down. So the next step in assembling this jumper is doing the exact same thing that we've already been doing, pinning all along here and down the sleeves, and then seaming it up. And then after that, it's pretty much done. You just have to weave in your ends. So what we're going to do is, again, just pin all the way around until you get to the end of your sleeve, and then again just making sure you're lining up all the important joining points. So like join up these really well, so in this corner make sure that's all nice and lined up properly, and this end, and then your sleeve end as well. So just pop your pins in, and then we're just going to seam it up. Okay, so as you can see here, I've seamed up everything, taken all my pins out. This is what it should look like, and then that's the back, so you can see it's super clean. And then I'll show you what it looks like turned inside out. But what we need to do now is all these tails need woven in. You can leave them. I think it looks quite cute on certain styles if you leave them, but that's not what I'm going for. So I am going to tie them all in. So I'm just stretching out all my edges just to make sure everything is gonna fit nicely and not gonna be too tight. So I'm just tying a double knot there, and then taking a big tapestry needle, I'm just gonna thread these ends through it. What I tend to do is I just like go in between and like zigzag it up. So just like weave it through. And then just pop your tails through. And then once you get to this point, if you've not left enough of a gap, you can just pull them out. And then straighten it up and then trim these bits off. There's probably better ways that you could secure your ends, but this is just what I do. And I've put these particular ones through the wash and they've come out like fine, so I wouldn't worry too much. But if you're using a lighter yarn, I would maybe secure them a bit more, just for like peace of mind. Yeah, so I'm gonna go weave in all my other ends, because there's some here and then around the neckline. So yeah, I'm gonna do that and then we'll see it finished. far, one finished jumper on the centre. I can't decide which side I like more. The stripes on that one's so nice, but like, oh, so pretty. Let's try it on. Oh, goodness. But yeah, they're super cozy, like so, like I love how tight the sleeves are. It just makes it feel so nice. And there we go. The sleeves, the edges, they're kind of like flared, which is so cute. But yeah, like you can see, like it's just the cutest. Like it's not really see-through, which is nice. But some yarns will be, that's just kind of the way it goes. Oh, it's so cute. Love it. Hope you had a good time following along with me. But yeah, you can see all the seams are nice. You can't really see the yarn. You can a wee bit, but I think it like adds to it. But yeah, there we go. I'm gonna probably make one to do an oversized one with 2 front panels. So stay tuned for that. That'll be really fun. But yeah, one jumper made. And look, I love how that like matches. That's so cute. Love it.